Hey everybody, I'm Matt Hill. I'm in the Trace Management podcast studio. Thanks to Trace Management for being the benefactor of a space for us to talk about oil and gas and the people who bring us abundant life, human flourishing energy. And Trace Management is an oil and gas engineering firm who has consultants or, everything oil and gas. If you need engineering, come to them. And of course, all of this is for the Talking Energy show that supports the Oilfield Tailgate. So please go out and follow, like, comment on anything that has to do with Oilfield Tailgate or the Talking Energy show. You guys have seen them. I usually just post on oilfieldtailgate.com just about everything.
Oh, yeah.
But I like to go around the room and ask people, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself. Go ahead, buddy.
Sure. Ty Wright. I'm with Bosque Systems. Been here about 5 years now. I'm Director of Business Development for the company, along just all portions of sales and business development and growth for the company and organization.
They're lucky to have you.
You don't know how lucky we are.
They are.
We have Matthew McConaughey look-alike. I mean, he should be the stunt double,
Well,
but
couldn't he look like me, though?
I think he's older, so technically you look like him.
You look a lot older.
Because I work in the oil field.
Yeah, I was going to say that's all oil field there.
Yeah,
That's
like-
definitely not the
You're
acting.
probably the same age as Matt, but you look like you might be his dad.
I think he's got me by about 10 years, but I've got a lot more gray in the wisdom. Maybe more wisdom right there.
Yeah, there you go. Good luck with that.
And I'm Jeff Stokes. I'm with Bosque as well. I'm one of their region managers. Do a lot of stuff here in Oklahoma, but also call on the Dallas market as well. So kind of travel a little bit here and there, but Ty's my boss and tries to keep everything, keep me under wraps, which...
He's your partner. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, he basically beats me down. That's why I don't have hair, because he pulled it out.
That's why. That's because
Well,
you have so much testosterone. Let's not forget the science behind it.
I mean, I thought it was just...
You are more men than most.
Well, that's true. I was just going to say I was SBG, sexy bald guy, but, whatever it
I'm
takes.
not.
Kind of like last year's awards banquet for SPE when there was like 8 of us sitting at the table and everybody was bald except me.
Yes.
We know.
Yes.
No, we did notice.
Yeah.
We're very accepting in our group.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody invited anybody with hair except me there.
So funny. Well, the reason I do this, guys, is to promote oil and gas. First and foremost, what you do is vital, and I appreciate you very much. I'm honored to be here with you. I've known you guys a long time. Have hoped and dreamed to get you both in here. Tell me, where'd you grow up? How'd you first hear about oil and gas? Were you in it before, Bosque? What was your first job in oil and gas, Ty?
That's a funny one there. So I went to school at Mississippi State, Hail State boys. Had a pretty good season this year, but outside of that, I grew up farming, rice farming, soybeans, and so my path was to go after farming. And last semester in school, me and a friend of mine wanted to go out to Wyoming and just love life, after we graduated. Of course, Dad's like, well, who's funding this event, And it just so happened we kind of ran across a guy that his dad had a venture out in the Powder River Basin. I guess it was outside of Pinedale. It wasn't closer to the not really Powder River. It was up around that Pinedale area. And ended up getting a good salary. They were paying us for our truck. They gave us room and board. And, of course, after that, Dad was like, you go find yourself, son, And so that was where I first cut my teeth.
And what a great support. That's a loving dad.
Sure. And it was beautiful up there. It was a short run for me. I was up there for a couple months. But oddly enough, we ran disposals and transferred water. We weren't actually treating. We did some filtering. But and now with Bosque, we do the full life cycle of water. So kind of came full over. But from there, I ended up coming back to Arkansas. Worked for a small company doing communications with XTO and Southwestern in the Fayetteville. Ended up moving over to BJ Services after that. Worked in cementation and fracturing. Eventually shut that yard down when the Fayetteville slowed down. Moved to Kilgore. Went back over to cement there. Oh, man, I was there for about a year and then transferred over to Shreveport to their new facility and stayed on fracturing there. Of course, over in the Haynesville Shale, obviously a lot higher pressures, different iron. But I'd say the Texas, Louisiana, I probably learned the most on the operations front. Different jobs, different formations, especially from the cementation. So really enjoyed that part of my career. And then I ended up moving up here in 2012 to work for Weatherford. And I was in frac sales for that. Worked for them just over 5 years. It kind of broke my heart when they shut frac down, and a few others in Oklahoma, I think. I remember one customer calling me up and saying, "Hey, man, you just made me get a price increase from Halliburton."
That's how it works.
Yeah, but it hurt. But ended up making a flip and came over to Bosque just over 5 years ago. It's been a great run. Ended up being over the Mid-Con region at first, and then now they've moved me over about 3 years ago, moved me over business development for the company. So involved with the disposal side. We've got an M&A team where we are looking for new ventures of growth, along with our water treatment and then also our pressure pumping division.
Nice. What about you, homie?
Yeah, so I grew up in Dallas, Texas, so nowhere near the oil patch unless you're in the Barnett. Actually, my uncle's best friend, most people know him, his name's Jeff Jordan. Anyway, he kept trying to get me to.
Bless you.
Yes, I know all the Jordans. That's the problem.
We love the Jordans. And hey, by the way, future teaser here. We are supposed to get all the Jordans together around the table.
You don't have enough alcohol.
We'll work on that. We're welcoming sponsors of local.
Hey, don't let them fool you. They have money. Let them bring the good stuff.
Okay.
So, but no, Jordan, Jeff tried to get me to quit college.
As well as any good uncles. College, you don't want to know.
Yeah, well, he kept telling me. Jeff's line is, "Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story," and he's a hell of a storyteller. So I don't know how much of his stories about life in the oil patch in the '80s is true or not.
Don't need it.
But I mean, like I said, I saw him at events at my aunt and uncle's, and like I said, he kept trying to get me to quit college. I said no. Probably a good thing because I graduated, and then 6 months later, in 2006, I looked at Jeff and I said, "All right, I'm tired of waiting tables. You tell me about all these events that you do as far as, you drink going to the job, you drink coming from the job, blah, 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 all this good jazz."
Water.
Used to be nothing but an alcohol, have a good liver, and play golf.
Exactly. I mean, that's what he was saying, but this was whenever he was in the field. So I was like, heck, I just had 4 years of college experience at that. I mean, I think I got this down. So walk into BJ in Mineral Wells, Texas, and apply, and I'm the only guy in a three-piece suit. Everybody else is in FRCs and covered in mud and stuff, and I'm like, I am way out of place on this. So anyway, Coy Randall gave me an opportunity, and then started cementing and fracking in the Barnett, and then BJ created this trainee program called the Associate Field Trainee, which you were part of, right?
Yeah.
So I was part of the inaugural class. So all it meant was that you had a college degree, just not engineering. So anyway, they put us out there, and we did a lot of good stuff. And it was take kids that had college degrees from knowing nothing about the oil patch to being a service supervisor in 8 months.
It was a good program.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Spent 3 weeks in the field, and then you would do a week in Tomball with a certain level class.
Yeah. So I mean, it was a pretty close knit group. I think the first class we had was like 12 guys. So we were always down there at the same time. So kind of built some camaraderie, but stayed with BJ, got out of field operations, went into field sales, and then really got to know a lot of people at Chesapeake, which kind of catapulted me into doing city sales for BJ, and they pushed me over into Dallas, which I was comfortable with because that was home for me, right? So, but then comes Baker bought BJ again, and let's see, what was it, 2014? Sammy Graham, Ken Lake, and Kent Warner, those three guys came calling and said, "Hey, we need somebody."
I had dinner with Sammy last night.
I'm so sorry.
Good guys.
Yeah, no, they're great guys. They asked me if I would move up to Oklahoma, and I said, "Well, sure, but I got to have this, and this." And Ken goes, "Well, let me see what I can do." And I go, "I first really need to convince my wife to move to Oklahoma." So I got a girl that was born in California, grew up in DeRidder, Louisiana, but spent a lot of time in Dallas. And you think that if you marry somebody that comes from DeRidder, Louisiana, you're getting somebody that likes to hunt and fish and camp. Yeah, she can fish because Lord knows I can't even catch a cold in the middle of winter. But hunting, she's out. Camping, if it's not the Four Seasons or a Disney cruise boat, she's out as well. So
smart. I mean, so they're all smarter than us.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
true. That's true.
My wife never gave any fuss on the moving. I was talking to y'all earlier about it. I've moved 12 times.
Wow.
In 12 years of marriage. Yep. God bless her, right?
That's pretty amazing. I mean, yeah, held it together. Said, "Hey, wherever you're at,
Yeah, we've had some hurdles. but-
wherever I'm at with him,
Yeah.
I'm
It's
home."
hard.
Didn't want to
No.
interrupt the timeline there.
But no, my wife said, yeah, if I can convince my kid's dad to allow him to move, then she'd be in. So got that all squared away, and he didn't go with us right away. I told kind of what really challenged our marriage was told her that, hey, we need to let him kind of make a decision for himself, help him become, I guess more or less at some point become a man, right? And live with the consequences of your decisions. So he made that decision.
Kids are really good at that.
Well, but again, I mean, I think your job as a parent though too is you got to give them enough rope to hang themselves, but in an environment where you can still protect them, right? And this was something that it wasn't going to make or break his life, right? So anyway, we moved up here without him. I really thought we were going to get divorced that first year because he wasn't up here with us, and she was always going back, and we finally had to sit down and like have I say I come to Jesus meeting, and it's like, listen, love you to death, but if that's where you need to be, you need to go down there. I can't go. And so,
you got to provide a living for your family.
Exactly. So, that was really a turning point for us. And actually, probably about a month later, our son was up here, and he just looks at us and goes, "Hey, can I move in with you guys?"
Yes.
And it was kind of like, "Wait, what?" And I mean, it was like literally the week before school. So we got him all squared away, got him all up there or up here, and then he's been up here ever since. So we've been here almost 9 years.
Man, you can't help but get up here and like, golly, I like it here.
Well, so I always say, I mean, I'm a Texan, right? And Texans are always, people hate Texans because we're humble, we're arrogant because, hey, we were a nation before we were ever state. But then as being up here, I've kind of figured out why Texans and Oklahomans hate each other. We both have humble arrogance about us, and that's probably why we hate each other is because we're looking in the mirror, right?
There's no hate coming from Oklahomans toward Texas.
Well, I mean, I've always
I'm a
said,
fan.
well, so I'm
fan.
I'm from South Dallas where it's more blue collar, right? And I said I'd never live up there with those people, meaning the Friscos, the Planos, the white collar families, right? Met my wife, I lived in Frisco. Then I said I'd never live up there with those people, meaning Oklahomans. Now I live up here, and I will say it's people like Ty, people like you, that are either transplants or here, but really they call you just, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while, is everything all right? Haven't seen you in church, what's going on? Just want to make sure you're okay. Yeah, I mean, it's that great community that I think Dallas really has missing, and it's not the same Dallas that I grew up in. So
Interesting.
I will agree with you that that's one thing that when we left here in 2020 to move back to Arkansas, it was hard. I mean, like I drove 20 minutes out of the way just to go see a few guys from the SBE crew, just say hi.
You came up here for quite a bit of, you stayed in touch.
No, I do, but it's, I built an oilfield family here in Oklahoma.
You still have it.
I know, but I don't get to see y'all as much. Like the SBE Awards banquet, that's kind of like my reunion every year, but just
You got
get
to
to see
interview
everybody.
Harold Hamm. You did such a good job. I'm so proud of you.
yeah, why didn't you podcast that?
No, because I don't know, it's not, that was way better.
It was cool. It
Not
was a
everything
good
needs a
event.
podcast on it.
I say podcast. We should have at least videotaped. I mean, it was. I think that was a great kind of interview.
I like it more of that. It was a very private feeling. I don't think
You can thank Sonia set that up.
Yeah.
And though she did perfect because without the cameras on Harold, he can be more candid and be more genuine and funny.
And he is. I mean, like
Unscripted's better.
Yeah, I mean, we got to talk to him like afterwards, and our backgrounds are very similar because he grew up farming.
Yeah.
And so we talked about that, and then how he got in the patch, and it was kind of cool to. Now he's took his career a lot further than I have, but
And not that, by all means, if we would have had the camera, he didn't say anything off color at all the whole
No,
time.
not at all.
But just that feeling of freedom. Like, hey, I'm amongst my friends, amongst my family. I can be candid, and if I want to be colorful or if I don't, but there was none of that, like, oh, cameras are on me and I'm being judged thing.
Well, the other side of that, with him in the position that he's in, he has to be careful with the words he says whenever a camera's on him.
Well, now that he's bought everything back and not on the the stock exchange, say whatever you want, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
But still, I mean, whenever you're in the public light like that, I mean, you talk to several different presidents.
I think he's just as protective of our industry as we are, no matter what position.
And that's what I was going to say. He cares about our industry, and like so. To the form where he had meetings that he had to literally work around to get back for that event. And, when we found out he was going to be able to make it, his assistant was telling us that, well, he's canceled, moved this stuff around so he can literally like jump on a plane and make it back for that event. And so not only does he care about, Oklahoma oil and gas, but he cares about it as
the
a
groups
nation.
who support it, like the SP.
Absolutely. And SP, when he found out it was a 75th, he wanted to be a part of it, and so very.
Thank you, Harold. Thank you.
Thanks, Harold. Yeah, very blessed that he could be there. I've every time I've had a discussion with him, it's always been a good one. So, but he's done great things for our industry for sure.
There's so many. I mean, you type in oil and gas into LinkedIn, and you see, the couple million people that are just instantly available, and then you think of the couple million more that aren't directly tied to it. You're like, okay, well, maybe we've got 10 million people across the globe actually somehow connected to our industry. Thank you.
Sure.
Well, I mean, no offense, we're in energy, right? So energy drives the world, and energy, the amount of energy we need to keep the world going keeps increasing. And if you look at the pie charts or how it's broken out, not saying that there's not a place for renewables and stuff like that, but you still break everything out. Our energy increases, but even with the increase in renewables, we're still using the same amount of coal, we're still using the same amount of nuclear, we're still using the same amount of oil and gas. So, I mean, carbon-based things, non-carbon-based things, we're still using the same amount as far as percentages. Now, obviously percentages as things go up, you're consuming more. So
Sure.
unfortunately, we're still going, no matter what, we're still going to have to figure out a way to still provide a great product to the world, because we're not going to get stuff from China or Russia or Ukraine, wherever it may be, to here unless we have some type of oil and gas.
Yeah.
Or if, I hate to say this, but the U.S. government allows us to start figuring out ways to take a nuclear reactor, make it small so we can power more things.
But
Well, guess what else we're going to need? I'm going to crowbar this in right away. Water.
Yeah.
The more energy we need, the more water we need.
that's exactly right.
So Bosque, I'm fascinated by everything. I want to talk about everything, and you guys can be a series, but I want everybody to understand like Bosque is like a big deal in water for oil and gas.
Sure.
And, 30,000 foot view, what is Bosque? What all do you guys, what are all you guys doing right now?
Sure. So first off, we were started in 2007, started in disposal. So that's how we got into the actual business. Founder Joe Mitchell and Clay Lacrosse founded Bosque, and, essentially just took a consultative approach and hit Barnett operators to see, hey, what is your biggest strain? What is your biggest problem? And that's where we got in, it was water. And anybody that works in the Barnett knows that people drilled in the ocean, and it just constantly, they flow water. And so we
One
still,
of those Oklahoma, Mississippi.
yeah, right. How many wells did Sandridge put in up in the day in those disposals?
They're going to be worth a lot of money someday.
Sure. But, on the same front, it's like you're saying, water's been a big thing. So recycling's been a big thing, especially out in West Texas. We've got multiple jobs that we're reusing anywhere from 10, 20% up to, we've got one job in New Mexico where we're doing 70 to 80%. And water qualities is obviously, you got to meet specs. It can affect your chemistry if it has high chlorides and solids and whatnot. So we take that into account. So recycling is a big thing for us. On the fly treatment with different chemistries, different formations. We do front end testing to see what formation we're targeting, and then see what best fit chemicals might be used for that.
Nice.
And we work with the operators just to try to see, all right, well, what you're looking at, and then we try to throw a recommendation around that, more or less, not just a blanket approach.
Yeah, because you got to see not just like what they're doing right now, but what everyone in their little microgrid worth of drilling
Sure.
wells and where they're at and what they're going to use it for on the next step.
Right.
You know,
And there's
because
different.
we have
yeah.
drilling, we have completions, we have production, we have flowback, we have refracts,
Yep.
on and on and on. There's so many different operations just on the upstream side of things.
Yeah. And that's where we try to target it from different levels of the water. What kind of fresh water? Obviously, you approach differently than a produced water or a blend. And killing out all bacteria. In a lot of cases, you got to deal with H2S in certain areas, so we make sure we mitigate that as well. Another big part of our business is pressure pumping. We've got our own frac pumps, and we do a treatment called well shock, which it's chlorine dioxide and hydrochloric acid that work in conjunction, and we do different remediations where we pinpoint a solution and customize an approach to where we go in, and we've seen uplifts on production from anywhere from 40 to 100%. And then on disposals is where we started well shock, is where we're treating them, we're cleaning them up, cleaning up your paraffin, your scaling, stuff like that, and it's actually lowering injection pressures, and we're able to get more water on a daily basis, and it's been a win-win for operators and for ourselves.
On both those fronts right now, I mean, you can look across, we've, done some data just within this own podcast and different people I talk to, but roughly there's about 1 million wells that are considered online producing in the U.S. land, space. And so out of all of those, I mean, a lot of those 1 million wells are on the, low margin, small scale, coming out of the ground, 3 barrels, 6 barrels, like whatever. So
Stripper wells.
You can go and bring your technology and those, essentially a refrac almost.
It's actually a lot cheaper than a recomplete, even. So we've treated, essentially we like to pull tubing so you have a clean wellbore to work with.
Nice.
But we have treated down the backside in certain cases. We can't make hydrocarbons, but if there are hydrocarbons there, then we can definitely increase production there. And we've seen a lot of success where we've got operators that can tell that story.
We see the curve falling off on,
Sure.
I mean, everybody's well is going to go down. I mean, or you might drill them and they might go down in 6 months. I mean, nowadays the rock is going to get what it is.
Sure.
But why not throw your procedure at it? It's way cheaper to get that, technology out there and that operation
Sure.
and not give it any try at all. It's cheaper than plugging it.
Right. And in some cases, you've got operators that have a heavier focus on new production, like new wells,
Sure.
right? But, I mean, right now we've got on any given day, we typically have 2 crews out running, and they may be doing just a traditional acid job, or they may be going out and doing a well shock. And we see success in both applications, but it just depends on which one those are.
But you also have some operators that they may not have a big, DNC program that they're going to have for the next year. But I mean, you're talking to those production engineers, and the production engineers, their job is to minimize the amount of decline of their wells or figure out a way they can produce more, right? So whenever we're usually talking to production engineers, they're like, this is what I need, and they're like, it's going to cost me how much? And they're like, well, that's not much more than a typical acid job I'm doing. So why not, I say roll the dice for a couple, $3,000-$5,000 on top of your normal acid job. What's it going to hurt? I mean, you try it 3-4 times, and they always go, well, we want to try it one time. It's like, well, let's be honest. You try it once, if it's either a success or a failure. So that's just a data point. You need a trend, right? So can we get 3 to 5 wells? It's still a small number, but at least you start kind of seeing a trend.
You can see a cross compare there.
I just see that as a very vital technology right now because of how many operators don't have the budget to go out and just do drilling completion.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have, again, 1 million wells out there. How many of those the declines are so rapid, or they're just such marginal wells? But there's so many people that are interested in becoming part of oil and gas, and you can go out and buy maybe like 10 blocks of, hey, these are all small marginal wells, and I can go out and use this, and bam, we're up and running as a pretty that's a pretty sizable check in the mail kind of operator.
And we've got some of them that they'll actually there's going to be a cost associated to pulling tubing, so having to work over rig and everything else. So we've got some of them that if they've got a failure on one where they've got to pull a string, then they're calling us and saying, hey, can you get out here within 6 or 7 days? In a lot of cases, we're able to fit them into the calendar, so we get out there and help them out. And others are just willing to say, we know we've got a problem here. Let's go pull it. Let's get it done. And so it's
if it's going to pay for itself in 30 days,
less than that.
Oh, it'll pay like 7.
We've seen some where get ROI in less than a week.
So I can afford that invoice when it finally hits my mail.
Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah.
Risky business, but let's do
now,
it.
There's no guarantee, right? But and your verticals are probably going to take a little longer to pay off. You want a guarantee? I mean, I can throw it in a box
He's
for
going to
you.
be like, I promise you this is going to work.
Let me do the Tommy Boy skit on you.
Is this the fat guy in a little coat?
Tommy Callahan pitch.
I know.
If you want a guarantee, I got some free time.
And then the water. And so I just was with Gianni and his team over at Aquacat because they're now cleaning 20,000 barrels a day of the grossest produced water we can come up with, to cleaner than drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
And they can do it cheaper than saltwater injection. And it's pretty impressive, this Aquacat, concept. And so I'm like, man, I got to introduce, and this is another reason I do this, not the only, this is one of the things, like, I can't wait to introduce my friends at Aquacat to my friends at Bosque and see how you guys can combine these, technologies and be part of each other.
Absolutely.
And go out and, package these deals together and make sure that our industry, just our industry has all these technologies, but look at what your equipment can do for, you look outside of our industry, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, there's just no end to, the applications.
Right.
Mining, just general humanity, like, can we make clean water for the rest of the world that doesn't have the opportunity to have
I think the other side of that was part of it was, can the chemistry keep up, right? Because originally, like my Barnett days, the Haynesville days, probably early on into probably 2012, 2013, everything we had was just for fresh water, right? Now that, number one, we know that, or I say we know, but, it seems to be there's a correlation between us disposing of produced water and fracs, or earthquakes are starting to kind of coincide, right? So
seismicity events are no joke to
even in Midland,
public at large, man.
That actually increased.
That puts a
reuse
real
in
big
Midland
black
Basin.
eye on our industry. We don't like that. We already know that. We want to solve that issue before anybody else does, but
sometimes, I mean, you have to have people that are forward thinking, right? So how can we make this better? And I think there's a lot of people that were kind of, it's not broke, why fix it type thing, right? So number one, you have to first set a goal. So we set that goal. The chemistries have come along to where we can now, hey, we have horrible water that we can use. There's a company down in Dallas named Exco that actually put in 2 36-inch lines in their field in the Haynesville, and they were taking water from the paper mill that actually my father-in-law worked at, and we were reusing that at BJ back in 2010, 2011, 2012 timeframe. And I mean, they spent a little bit more money, but it made their fracs cheaper because they're not using fresh water. Number one, two, they kind of, hey, we're here for the community. And so, I mean, I think that was, I'm going to say kind of the start. They probably don't ever get mentioned a lot, but they were kind of one of the first ones to use somebody else's waste to try to make it better for our environment, right? So
I'm pretty sure Pioneer uses wastewater from Midland, Odessa.
They do.
To frack their water. So there's another piece of it too, where they're trying to use a green, and everybody's looking for a greener solution.
If we don't, we're going to be politic right out of our own business.
No, for sure. And from the same point, man, I mean, you look at, we have heavier droughts every year, and not only are when we're fracking with fresh water, you're pulling water away that could be used in cattle. It could be used in, obviously ranching, but farming, obviously that holds close to my heart because that's my background. But there's a lot of water that goes into it. When you're talking about rice farming in Arkansas, I mean, you're running a lot of water now. But even you go down to West Texas to get a field down there to get it irrigated, no telling how much water they're going to have to use. So, and that's going to be regulated even for the farmer. And then that means that they're not going to be able to make enough money on their crop. And
yeah, so we're going to.
Well, I was
all
actually,
of our prices are going to go up in anything drilling, completion, production because of water.
Yeah, I was actually talking to one of our clients out of Dallas, and they're looking at reusing. They're having to start reusing water, but New Mexico is asking them where they're getting their water from, and it's coming from a farmer, and it's like, well, where did he get that water from? So I mean, like New Mexico is even starting to say, hey, you, Mr. Farmer, can only use so much water. And I mean, I hate to have the government tell me or tell a farmer how much water he can and can't use, because I hate to say this, but last time I checked, the government wasn't involved in farming. They were involved in government. So
they write a lot of subsidies. Some are good, some are bad.
Yeah. So
well, they got you on the hook. You're like, oh, you're on the teat now.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, I don't normally pay a lot of attention to a lot of headlines that come out of California, but when I saw just the tip of the iceberg on what they were doing out there, saying, hey, by the way, if you have a water well, whatever the age of it is, we're going to come out and put a meter on your water wells if you're a landowner. And now you're going to start paying us to use your water from your land.
That you own the mineral rights to.
Like, what?
That doesn't seem...
Well, seems unconstitutional, but California does a lot of things. They're like, well, we'll see you in court, I guess.
Yeah, I'll never live there.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm saying never. I'll write name on that.
Yeah, you haven't been to Bakersfield yet.
Yeah. I do have some friends that live there in Southern California, and they purchased a house in Florida just because they're looking at and saying, hey, even though I live here, one's a firefighter, the other one's works for, she's a stenographer. But anyway, they're like, yeah, as soon as our pension, or I qualify for our pension and I can retire, we're out. And he's like, I'll go. They're already going to move to Orlando, but they're like, I'm going to go move there, and they've already built their house and whatnot. So they're like, hey, I just can't wait to get out of here. But he's also waiting for his daughter to, turn 18, and so that this way he can fully leave and hopefully take his daughter with him.
I've got to get this podcast studio and take it on the road and take it out to California. We got to find some guys that have worked in oil and gas in California.
I've got contacts.
Yeah.
I've got contacts that we can go see.
I want to hear the whole story of the oil and gas of California.
Yeah,
that's another goal I have. Send them my way.
The last name I worked at Weatherford with.
There's Scott, a guy that I used to work at Flowtech. His name's Scott Myers. He was out in Bakersfield, worked out there with BJ, then Baker, and Flowtech, and I don't know what he does now. But kind of funny story. His son was. Whenever he was doing an intern for music or whatever, he was at my son's high school as an intern doing a student teaching. And I was like, this world is way too small for a guy from California and me in Oklahoma, and we have a connection, and we work together at the same company, yet his son's also, a student teacher at my kid's high school. So you think the world's really big, but then whenever you're basically a degree or 5 degrees of separation from somebody.
The only people you talk to are in oil and gas, you're going to run across them.
Yeah, but what are the chances of his son being, an education major here in Oklahoma from California, and also at my son's high school back when my kid was in high school? I mean, I think that's kind of cool.
Pretty great.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. So, but
God puts people together, buddy.
That is true. That is true.
We found each other.
It's the bulb connection.
I know we do. Yeah,
we're still trying to figure this one out. So.
Say the oddball for a little while, guys. It's coming, I promise. One of these days when I shave my head, you're going to be like, "Who's this guy?"
I will say, when the first time you do shave it, you're like,
"We do it."
We'll do it on the podcast.
Yeah, there we go. That'd be. I've got the clippers for it. So
we all have clippers. we don't pay for haircuts.
I'll let y'all bring your clippers.
So
I've got enough to just trim my beard.
We're going to get off in the weeds too far. I want Bosque to be at the highlight of this thing for a minute for me, just so I can learn more about it, just so I can sell you guys when I get in front of people. But what do you see Bosque doing in the future that you're excited about? What's coming? Where do you hope that paths collide in the right ways? Like, here's the things that we might be able to do.
I think obviously recycling is at the top of the list for me. We've branched out into a different application in recycling. Obviously, we're doing some of the on-the-fly recycling, but I think more of the invasive recycling where you've got higher TDS, where you're trying to push for 100% produced water fracking. And it's different in different areas. Obviously, your water's not going to be the same even from the Midland to the Delaware Basin. So, and, you start looking up to the Bakken and you really start getting some high TDS and stuff like that. So I think that would be our biggest push, is more recycling within our organization. Water treatment has always been a bench runner for us, from customized treatments. We run anywhere from a couple chemicals to anywhere to 6 chemicals sometimes on location. So we can do a full-blown customized frac package. So I think that is probably going to be a continued branch for us. Our M&A team, where we're looking at branching out to different service lines maybe. I know right now we're building an acid gas injection well in the Delaware Basin. We are partnered with Battalion on that. That's our subsidiary company, Cara. And that's a really good one for us right now. We're hopeful to start taking sour gas in April of 2023. So that's one that we've been working on for quite a while. They're actually in
A lot of hurdles there.
Well, I think that's going to be a big one because, how many fields out there that have H2S or, some type of sour gas, and if you could only treat this one issue, I have a lot of takeaway that we could have, or, this makes it go from unprofitable to profitable now, right?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, there's a lot of
Environmentally responsible, and
Exactly.
like, hey, all you East Coast, West Coast, Ivy League investors that were apprehensive about getting oil and gas because we weren't doing the right thing, we all are.
Yeah.
We were ESG before it was called ESG. We know that when we waste any kind of money on environmental waste, it's monetary waste also.
Well, now be careful because now I think they're changing ESG to ETI or something like that. There's a new acronym for it now as well. So
to make it the flavor of the day, we were already doing that.
Yeah.
We want to be solving our own problems. We already know our own problems.
I don't think that most people understand that we're also part of the community. I mean, every company has people that live in that community, so we can't sit here and pollute that community because at the end of the day, you're killing your workforce. Yeah. I think the other hard part is how do we get younger people to kind of be in the STEM market, right? I don't think a lot of people understand how much oil and gas community reinvests into STEM projects. I know Sonia. She was her daughter. There was little bit of stuff that they did on engineering in the oil and gas firm, but they had all different types of engineering and stuff like that. But it was just barely a brush over on the oil and gas sector, and most people don't know much about us. I mean, I'm first generation oil field.
Aspect of all of our lives, energy, and we just brush over it, like you say,
Yeah.
over and over again.
And that's, Harold even said that when we had that discussion. He said that's the worst part about our economy is that they're not educated on what oil and gas. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're in oil and gas," and think we're a bad thing. But everything that we do in oil and gas is people are part of, regardless if they're a green thumb and they're living off grid or whatever. There's parts and pieces that they're a part of, and they've got to use.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's where a lot of people are just uneducated on what our industry does and what it
It's
affects.
the sexiest industry.
But yeah, I mean, still getting back to kind of what we do. I mean, I really think the acid gas injection well, where we're taking CO2 and H2S.
And we're talking to other operators from that standpoint that need that kind of, because we're doing turnkey partnering deals with that. And I think that's what really, Bosque's not afraid to go out on a branch or a limb to try to come up with a different line of business if it makes sense. We started off in disposal, and then next thing you know, people started coming to us on treatment, and so we started looking at green solutions for that, and then so it just branched off as we continued on, and even down to the pumping group, where we started doing these remediations on our own disposals, and then it turned into a service line for us. So I think we're open mind, we keep a consultative approach, and if we see a fit for a need in the market, then we're going to go after that.
And the good thing is we're also privately owned. We're not privately funded, or we're not private equity back or anything. We're just privately owned. So that makes life so much easier because we just have to satisfy basically one or two guys. And as long as it fits a hurdle and he can see,
all of your customers.
well, besides those, but I mean, for us to do a deal with somebody, right? I mean, if those two guys are like, yeah, that makes dollars and cents wise, let's go do it, right? Yeah. So we're able to really change and move as times move a lot faster than, I hate to say, like my former company, Baker. I mean, Baker, it took forever for us to get something, from point A to point B, right? But that's also big corporate structure and whatnot that you're having so many different approvals.
Just a completely different environment.
Yeah.
How many you're in every basin now?
So we are active in just about every basin except for the Northeast. We had a water treatment up there, electrocoagulant treatment. We sold to Waste Management back in the day, and I don't know that they're using it anymore. But we haven't entered back into that market since. We had a
Not that they couldn't.
yeah, not so they couldn't. That's right. But we haven't entered back into the Northeast since then. So
And do you know about how many employees you guys have at Bosque?
we're running roughly around 125 to 130 employees.
That's a good job.
And
Looking for more.
we are. We're actually hiring operators in Mid-Con, operators in the Permian. Looking
DJ
for a
and
couple sales guys in the Permian too, actually.
Well, good luck. God bless them. That'd be under Ty.
Yeah, we actually are.
Train them, teach how to do
That's,
cool stuff.
That's thanks to Marco. We've got a little venture that we're going to be managing some disposals for some operators up there. So that's a new venture that we're starting up.
How many saltwater disposal facilities? Let's see. I think here in Oklahoma, there's like 1,000? Am I wrong? How many
I don't know.
How many saltwater disposal facilities are across the U.S.?
That's a
Find
good
out for me.
question. I'd have to go to our little handy Inverus app. And
Somebody's got the Inverus app to.
Yeah, we need to probably get the Inverus
saltwater
guys out
disposal
there.
facilities are across U.S. land. Get back to me on that, will you?
Yeah, we can do that through state by
Curious.
state.
Yeah.
Sure.
See, I always have these fun questions I throw at
There you go.
people.
There you go.
Like at one point, I was like, "How many flares? How many flare stacks are running right now?"
A
Across
lot
the
less
US?
now than there used to be.
I mean, because there's operators that we've got one operator that we're partnered with. We're doing remediation work for them in the Permian, and that's a smaller vertical field, but they can't get the oil out because of the gas. They can't flare it, and it's because of midstream.
Right.
And I think a lot of people have had that problem out there with being able to get some of this gas off location.
How
and it's-
cool would it be though if you ran that flare stack to, instead of a fire, you ran it to a generator?
Already tried
and
that
then
idea.
and then the generator, of course, you got to clean up,
Ran
right?
Bitcoin.
No,
No.
The Bitcoin now. For
Put it-
right
put it
now,
on the grid.
Bitcoin's down. You have to give
it on the
yourself put it on the grid. But you
Yeah.
have several options now, or you could run that generator to run a water recycling plant. Ta-da!
Man, Misty didn't marry you just for your stunning good looks, did she?
I am really, really smart. One person will hear this thing. But you know what I'm saying?
Thank you,
Like
Misty.
Yeah, no.
these water recycling plants can be then chained together across the Permian, and now we have a grid of ways to get water anywhere out there.
And I think that in some cases that's a problem for the infrastructure piece of it. You've got, bringing produced water over land, or even laying out, operators spending the money for the infrastructure on their land to get it from A to B, especially from the producer on a group of wells to go to one single pad, right?
Yep. But we have pipelines taking our product, the gas, and now shipping it across approved pipelines down to the Gulf, and we will be putting on approved terminals and create LNG and shipping it overseas.
Yeah.
But in that same turn, we could grab Gulf water and ship it up in pipelines, and we could put Bosque and Aquacat together across all the land and have those flares running generators that are running turbines to push that water up the pipelines, and we could make that desert an oasis.
Yeah.
The other
Visions.
hard part of West Texas.
I'm basically terraforming the planet.
It's all those trees that are sucking up all the water
Yeah.
out there.
Hey man, I love those mesquite trees. By the way.
I was gonna
I
say,
like wild boars and mesquite, just like the next guy. Backyard barbecues.
I was going to say that's a good barbecue grill there. So,
But I mean, also if we terraform it into the jungle, I'll eat a monkey. Doesn't bother me at all.
You'll eat a monkey?
I'll eat whatever is out there and available in the forest that we create from our water with Bosque. Just saying.
I like it.
You guys have a big mission in front of you now. Sorry.
Well, no, I think probably as far as West Texas goes, though, too, is a lot of those carriers, but a lot of the water that's being used out there, there's water rights that people, whenever they signed up to lease, they had to buy so many barrels, or you have to use this company for your water. So it's kind of, not only am I getting paid because I own the land, but now you're also having to buy my water. So if you take that fresh water from them, okay, well then you have to use my produced water type thing, right? So those are I say that.
And then they've got the option to treat it, so it can get complex in those avenues.
But
the same thing. Hey, the same thing when you
West
turn
Texas
on that-
Mafia issues.
Whenever you do like the Bitcoin mining, well, at one point that flare gas was completely useless, and now you got to figure out, well, how do I pay this guy? Do you want it in Bitcoin? Do you want it like how much gas I was paying you for? I mean, it's so complicated depending on the mineral rights and the landowners and yada yada.
Well, the other thing is you could use that gas is to run your facilities that you have out there. So
and there's operators already doing that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different things that we could do to use that gas instead of just release it or flare it or whatever, and it just basically be
Have you
useless.
seen, this is way off in the weeds, but have you seen this, it's like this machine that they set up on top of mountains in very arid regions that are basically like deserts, but it will collect the water in the air and then turn them into glaciers around this like pole sticking up out of the ground. And then over the course of their summers up there, that glacier on top of that mountain, they set that little gadget up. It's meltwater and it's coming down in like the villages, and they're able to like irrigate their farms and stuff like that.
What Predator movie have you been watching?
I don't know.
What sci-fi movie?
Way too many science magazines, I guess. I don't know. Google and I go way down the
Nothing would
rabbit holes.
surprise me. I mean, obviously, we've come a long way in technology.
Yeah.
From the water treatment standpoint, even to where, where we were when I first joined Bosque to where we are today, I feel like we're in a lot better place on, partnering with our customers. I don't know if you ever see my email tag, but I don't have customers. I've got friends I do business with, and I really believe in that.
Also, no one else will have us. It's got to be our friends. This
This is true. Because if I'm not your friend at the point where we start doing business together, then, it's
Yeah, I've met him. I've hung out with him. Like, he's lucky he's my friend.
I've told all my bosses this. I mean, if it wasn't for customers and my boss, I'd have the perfect job, eat, drink, and, do it on somebody else's dime, supposedly. That's what my wife thinks that I do all day.
I started up on my sales. Whenever I do sales, it's like there's like a 6-block deal where it's like, this is what my parents think I do. And then it's that guy that's like just doing this all the time. Yeah. And then there's guys drinking at the bar. You know what I'm talking about?
What my friends think I do, what my wife thinks I do.
This is all everybody thinks that I
Yeah.
do. Most of the time, I'm just bothering people on LinkedIn, like, hi, I'm Matt.
You don't know me, but I would love to talk to you.
I like long walks on the beach.
Oh, I'm using that.
Go for it. I mean, it's worked one time.
One time, and I get shut down. Like, I'm never doing that again.
Cold calls are the toughest part of a sales guy's business.
I wish it
nobody
was mine.
nobody actually loves it, but I don't really mind
I
cold
don't have
calls.
a bone of shame in my body.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things to do is cold
I've got one of our sales guys, and I've got to call him after this, but he couldn't get a response from this one engineer, and so he started sending like cat pictures to her in an email box. Like, he was not giving up, man.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
I will say,
Trying anything.
Yeah, I mean, I will say what really changed my sales career was one of the guys I worked with. I kind of mentor him. He's like my little brother, but his name's Doug Owen. He works for Atlas Sand. But whenever he was at Key, he never would call somebody. He would just send them a calendar reminder, say, hey, Mr. Customer, blah, blah, blah. My name's Doug. I want to, chat with you about XYZ. I know that your time's very valuable. I don't want to, take too much of it, but I would love to talk to you about X, Y, and Z. And he would send it. And I go, that's very intrusive. He goes, well, but you got to think most people nowadays, their lives are ran by a calendar, and they'll either hit accept or decline. And if they don't ever hit decline and it doesn't ever come back to me, I show up and I say, I have a meeting with them. And he goes, you don't know how many times that worked. And I will say pre-COVID, that was the best thing in the world that ever worked for me. Post-COVID, people still trying to get through. Most people don't have secretaries anymore, so it's kind of hard to kind of break through that door sometimes if you don't know somebody. But, you still got to go figure it out, be the bull in the china shop, break it down. So
I always hope that I'm the worst salesman in the world. I don't even know if anybody knows what I do.
I do. I was telling everybody about it before we came in.
No, Night Fire's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Pretty
they
cool.
are.
Look it up, Night Fire.
I thought you were Misty's witch.
Yeah, SB's doing really good. Night Oil Tools doing good. Night Fire, Night Oil Tools, and Night Fire, not the same people, but I still I'll promote anybody if they support oil and gas.
Yeah,
and what
absolutely.
We do. That's the great thing about what I'm doing. Attach your logo to this, will you?
Yeah, we're a big family, and there's a lot of work out there.
Big family. We want to keep the lights on. We're again, you're vital to oil and gas and the human flourishing experience. It's pretty impressive. There's people that Richard Spears said it right, in all of the meetings, we provide affordable and abundant energy to poor people across the planet.
Oh, yeah.
So we can say that to anybody that asks us what we do.
Sure.
Oh, but I mean, you kind of take that to the next extreme. You look at Haiti versus the Dominican. Haiti deforested their entire side of the island. They're not.
They didn't have energy.
Yeah, well, but you look at the Dominican. They all gave the government gave all their people stoves and stuff like that, and ran natural gas lines. And I mean, that's the pretty side of the island. I mean, most people
flourished.
Yeah,
the
I
other
mean,
side looks like it's just completely, and you can almost see
it's
the
impoverished.
line.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. But I mean, again, some things if you're not forward thinking, again, it takes people that are forward thinking though too to think about that. So.
Well, we want everybody out there to think forward, think how you can get a hold of Bosque and support them in their efforts. How do people get a hold of you? What's the website? What's your emails?
We're at bosquesystems.com. get a hold of me or Jeff
Yeah.
through our emails, Ty.Wright at Bosque Systems or Jeff Stokes,
Yeah,
Jeff.Stokes.
Jeff.Stokes at Bosque
Or
Systems.
we'd love you to get on LinkedIn, find them.
Yep.
LinkedIn, yeah. You can find us that way. Or find us at the closest bar.
Not a chance.
Not really running those as much anymore.
That's true. That's
Too old
true.
for that.
Yeah, or go to oilfieldtailgate.com. There's a calendar of all the events and meetings you can attend, the SP, the IADC, the API, all the acronyms.
Is there anything that you're not a part of?
Well, no, I have FOMO. No, if there's an acronym out there and it has to do with anything energy and now fire and hazmat and like on and on, I've got a whole other conference I'm part of here coming up in March and April. That has
Are they going to allow you into some
Homeland
other?
Security? Yeah, I had a meeting with them
Really?
today. Yeah, it's gonna
They didn't arrest you?
Yeah, no, they were like stoked. We're gonna like be part of like the government now too.
Oh dear Lord.
Oh yeah,
I'm going to pray for you on that one.
I'm going to go in and I'm going to go talk to Elon, and then we're going to get on Twitter.
I hope this is like the Truman Show. I want to see the FBI or somebody arrest him. Homeland Security just like take
I
him
already
out.
told you, Jeff. I don't care what OSU bullcrap you have. I am not wearing orange.
I'm just happy that I made you
Trying to get me to
speechless.
wear orange.
I'm just happy I made you speechless. Whenever you turned around and like we're just like,
I just hadn't seen overalls that look like that.
well, you know, there were one of I don't know if I told you this, but I've been offered $500 for the overalls as they were, and I'm like, well, I don't mind.
If
you know,
somebody would have offered me $500, I would have taken them off you for
Strutting out in
$500.
boxers.
I would have made an effort.
trust me, I was down for it, but my wife was like, no, we are not getting arrested today. And I was like, okay, so.
Well, you need to start wearing like some
Gotta
gym
go to
shorts
Boston.
underneath them
I
now.
mean, my boxers are basically gym shorts. I mean,
And
whatever.
also orange.
How'd you know? Were you in my closet this morning whenever I put them on?
All right, this is what we do, everybody. We interview my friends and support oil and gas, and I'm going to get them out of here. Guys, God bless you.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Yeah,
man.
thanks.
So much. Again, you're always wanted in here. Welcome. You can come back and be co-host or series guest, or you bring in somebody that you find interesting. Don't forget, if you find somebody interesting, bring them in here for me, will you?
Absolutely.
Will do.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Love you.
Matt.